We are recording. Welcome to the Browns Out of Town podcast. This is the Week 11 review, Week 12 preview. I'm Ray Roberts. That's Jimmy Crawford. How are you, James?
Doing great. I got the week off, trying to get some stuff around the house done. Like I said earlier, ran into a plumbing disaster today. So,
Like you
fun
got
day.
the whole week off? Did you take the week off, or did they give you the whole week off?
Yeah, I took Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, and then we're off Thursday and Friday anyway. So,
Were you supposed to work Wednesday? Because that's something that I've been playing with. A lot of people were like, if you work a job that makes you work the Wednesday, then you have a terrible job. And I think we're back to the essential versus non-essential debate. Like if your job just gives you Wednesday off, I don't think you work at an essential job.
Yeah, I would have to work Wednesday if I didn't request it off. But this is my first job that I've had that I don't have to work Friday. Like every other place I've ever worked at's been open on the Friday after Thanksgiving, and we're not. So it's nice.
This is the second one, the last place I worked, but this is the first one that pays you for it. Like we get paid for Thursday and Friday as long as we show up for work on Monday, which is a very
as long as you come back.
Yeah, they attach it together. Like they're not going to pay you for it if you just don't show up. So that's not a very good sign for retention, but I guess you got to draw the line somewhere.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. Point of the podcast, everything Browns, just not their town. It was weird explaining our podcast to that other. So I was on this other podcast. It's called "It's Just a Game" podcast. It's a Philadelphia Eagles podcast, which I was excited that the Browns won because I didn't want to go on there and then relive the loss with somebody who just beat us. So it was
right,
cool
and you agreed to do this before the game, so you were in it either way.
Yeah. I mean, publicity is publicity,
Yeah.
So it is what it is. So I was already committed. So if we lost, and I was like, ooh, I got busy. That would have been a bad look.
I'm out.
But explaining it to we have our dumb shit that we go through every time to explain it to anybody if they haven't listened. But it's family and people who download it and probably don't listen, so it doesn't matter. But at some point, somebody might listen to it and be like, oh, I'm glad they explained it right from the top. But doing it on somebody else's podcast who would never really listen to the podcast or doesn't know the point or know the backstory. Like he said, he listened to some of it and he's like, oh, that's a really good idea. And I was like, yeah, it's a great idea. And I've got a good pitch. It's just the rest of the podcast we got to work on.
Yeah. The intro is the best part of the show. Yeah.
Hey, we've got so much practice. We've got 15 weeks of practice on that intro. Yeah. Want to stay in touch with the Browns, social media at Browns Out of Town on the Twitter and the Instagram. My phone died during the game and my stream was being shitty, so I didn't tweet that much. But rate, review, subscribe, share, reach out on social, hit the support tab if you want. Already swore like we usually do before this morning, so maybe I should move it up to the top of the list. So it's going to happen every once in a while. I don't have any stats this game. Or this podcast, maybe Jimmy does, but I usually use Pro Football Reference. And I do have the spread for Sunday that's going to change after other news, depending on who's in or out at practice tomorrow. But that's from FanDuel. How's Ohio, other than your sink falling apart?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. COVID's not doing great. I was got my haircut the other day, and the lady cutting my hair was pretty worried about shutting down again, but I don't think it's going to get that far again.
You guys have I saw on the Twitter, DeWine said that they should have the first doses of the vaccine for healthcare workers by the 15th of December.
Yeah, I saw that too. Is that just an Ohio thing? It doesn't make any sense. But
I think I haven't looked that far into it because it's impossible to find any decent news on COVID, and so you're just all right, whatever. Whatever they tell you is basically just fine. I believe you. I'm not gonna question. I'll know that I'm allowed to go have fun and do shows again when some white woman tells me I'm allowed to. That's who I'm waiting for.
I'm thinking it's going to be May, maybe June, but that's fine with me. I mean, just give me an end date. That's all I need.
That's, I mean, we were talking about it beforehand, but like this, like halfway crooks, like you can't just like be half in and half out, like having some people out in the world and some people not. Like either just like let it go and just like have like a press conference and be like, look, all these people are just gonna die. Like there's not anything we can do about it. Just go live your life. Or like, hey,
Yep.
let's shut everything down. And and if you're out, like, did you see that video that Rogan shared today of that guy getting choked out in New Zealand or in Australia?
No, was it for COVID related
Yeah, some
violation?
like some they said it was like a teacher from Melbourne was in a hotel and they refused to wear their masks. So like the security guard choked them out and then threw them out of the hotel. And like part of me's like that's a little extreme and you don't want to like give anybody like the right to like make you unconscious because you don't want to wear a mask. But then like the other part of me is like if we just choked out everybody who won't sit fucking still for 2 weeks, like we'd be done by
Yeah.
now. Like it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
very
We could have
weird
been done in
conundrum.
April. Yeah.
Like, and that's like the worst part. I mean, we can talk about it in our off-season conspiracy podcast when this virus cancels everything. But like, it's just like a very weird like. So right, like great. The air is killing people. Like it sucks. We all know somebody who's got it, or I got it, whatever. Like everybody
Yeah.
fucking knows somebody at this point, or who has like died or something like that. But you also like don't want to give up all your rights because our government's not great at giving them back when they're done with them. Like it's so it's
Yeah.
it's a very weird thing.
Yeah, that's the scariest part, but that's another podcast for another time.
Yeah, I guess whatever. You come here for the football, you leave when we talk about this shit. Wisconsin's the same. I put Wisco just because I wanted to make myself even more mad. That's something that people call Wisconsin here is Wisco. I don't know if I've complained about that yet on the podcast.
If you have, I blocked it out, but
Yeah, I don't like at this point. Like I don't even remember what I like. I barely pay attention to myself at this point. Like and it's, but like Wisco just drives me nuts. I don't know why. Like I know that like make your name of your state shorter. Don't call it Wisco. Don't drink
yeah.
Wisconsibly. Like puns with the state are just done. I'm canceling them.
Wisconsin.
Like it's t-shirts, it's bumper stickers. It's like on like you know how Ohio has like the cheeky like little jokes on the sign, like on the highway. It's on the
Yeah.
fucking thing. Like it'll be like drive Wisconsibly. Like it's just yeah, you can use it
Yeah.
for everything. Like it's funny, like maybe the first time you see it, and then you're just like, all right, there's no reason this has traction.
Right.
But that's Wisconsin. I mean, it's the same. People are crazy. It's not getting better. It's starting to snow, which makes it worse. And I'm officially done. Like I posted it online, which nobody cared. But like I'm 5 months into a 12-month lease in Wisconsin, and I realized that I'm officially done with snow. Like I think I'm just at that point in my life where I'm done with
Yeah.
snow, and I moved to
We
the
got some on
place where they
Sunday too.
invented it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so there's that. Started a new podcast with my friend Joe. He was from the Cleveland area. It's silly, it's inappropriate, it has nothing to do with football, which this podcast really has anything to do with it. So if you just want to listen to two idiots go back and forth about like absolute nonsense. Like we talked about Cutco knives for about a half hour on the first episode, and it's I mean it's good, but like there's no reason why it would come up. But that's called the Comedy and Mushroom Cult. I'm sure you can put two together on that one on why it's called that. NFL news, James. COVID-19 is ruining Thanksgiving. The
It
only
is.
game
Yeah.
that I wanted to watch, like I don't care about not seeing family because I wasn't going home anyways. Like I don't care about that. But the only good game tomorrow was supposed to, or today, tomorrow, whenever this is coming out, because Anchor's down, was because of the Baltimore Pittsburgh game, and it's postponed now because Baltimore can't handle their shit.
Yeah, that sucks. I was listening to the radio when they announced that earlier today, and then they followed up that announcement with what games were on the schedule. And I know it's obviously the Lions and the Cowboys, but I didn't realize who they were playing, and that they're just two terrible games. Like, not going to be fun at all.
Who were the Cowboys playing? Because the
Washington.
I meant who? Oh, Houston. That might be
Houston,
a fun
yeah.
game. Like Houston and
It
Detroit
could be,
are like
but
at least exciting bad. Like Dallas and Washington are just gonna it's
just
gonna be
bad. Yeah.
interceptions and not anything good.
Yep.
But that's gonna ruin it. Baltimore reprimanded the staff member. Do you have they? I didn't see if they said who it was yet, but like they must have like traced it to one person who's fucking stuff up for them to like call him out in the media.
Yeah, I don't know. That's must have been a pretty egregious violation to publicly reprimand a staff member. I mean, you haven't seen that yet, at least publicly.
Yeah, it's very weird because like even like if a player gets it or they were exposed to somebody else, they're like they were exposed. Like we're gonna test them, we're gonna make sure it's good. Like hey, maybe like because people got like families and stuff like that, and like they're going out into the world and coming back home. So like you can only isolate it so much. But like
Yeah.
for them to just be like one of our staff members is the root cause of this, and that hasn't like that person's name as far as I know hasn't come out. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I wonder if it's like part of the contract or something. But
Yeah, I'm looking it up just to make sure to see if it was a strength and conditioning coach who failed to report symptoms and had not consistently worn a mask or tracking device as required by NFL protocols. So this guy was just like basically like fuck it, I'm not doing it, and then like their whole team is just ravaged with it right now.
yeah, he didn't want his rights infringed on. Yeah.
It's they need some random bodyguard from from Australia to come and choke him out and kick him out of there. But I don't know any other random NFL news. Like that's the biggest news. Like there's, I mean, the NFL's a wreck right now. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Like Baltimore's game was supposed to be like Thursday this week, and then they had another Thursday game next week. So now they have to do Sunday, Thursday.
They had two Thursday night games in a row. That's crazy.
Something weird. I think it got moved around with something like I don't know what game it got moved, but they said it was. So I don't know if they moved that game up or if they moved something around. I don't know what it is, but they have a Thursday game coming up. But
Maybe it's just for not having this week's Thursday game.
yeah, maybe I don't know if that's because we're in that part of the. It's still a little early. I mean, we're getting close to when college would have been off, right? Because they usually would have
Yeah.
been. They usually go
Yeah, but usually those
Thanksgiving.
turn into Saturday games, not Thursday, like more Thursday games.
Yeah, that's true.
The Cowboys have two Thursday games in a row too because they are playing. The Cowboys do have two Thursday games because they're playing on Thursday next week and this week.
Yeah, weird. Maybe they just did that because they had teams doing Thursday games, and so they're like, well, let's just instead of a week and a half off, give them a week, and then give them the week and a half next week. I don't know.
I don't know. That's strange. I wonder if that was the real schedule, or if what I'm looking at is the adjusted one. But
Yeah, I saw,
strange.
and I mean, I saw that, and that was very weird. Weird. Let's go into Week 11 recap. I'm not gonna say too much because we went. I'm at the so basically the way that this episode is going to be structured, we're going to do a quick update with us because that's what you come here for. You want to see our faces, you want to hear our stupid voices, you want to hear our opinions on the world pandemic. And then I'm going to put the podcast that I was a guest on at the end of this. So if you're interested on the Philly side of things, because he goes pretty deep into Philly, we talk about other NFL stuff. It was actually a really interesting podcast. He was a really cool guy. We talk about like Myles Garrett hitting Mason Rudolph in the head with his helmet is still a topic in other markets,
Wow.
which I'm not sure why, but like we talk about that. So I don't know. Chris from It's Just a Game podcast was fun, but I'll let Jimmy take the floor on his Week 11 recap.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you touched on it, Chris, or anything, but obviously Olivier Vernon had a huge game. I think it's probably his best game as a Brown. Do you agree?
Maybe as a pro. He got offensive
think so? Yeah.
defensive
Could
AFC
be.
player of the week.
Yeah, well, that's yeah. I mean, it definitely could be. I didn't follow him too much when he was with the Giants, but as far as I know, it's the best game he's had as a Brown. Do you think it was because Miles wasn't there, or do you think it was just a good game?
I think, I mean, one, Philly's offensive line is trash. They're not good. So that had something to do with it. I think they probably it's not like the Odell Beckham thing where like you're trying to force the ball too much to Odell, but like maybe they call defensive plays to kind of set Myles Garrett up a little bit
Right.
more. So like maybe they were just like letting him be a little bit more free. So like it's kind of like one of those like Aaron Donald kind of things where like he might not make the big play all the time, but he's setting up the big play for other people to do it. So maybe
Yeah,
it's
that's
just like
true.
with Miles not there, they call more things to keep other people free. But also like
Right.
Claiborne got a sack too, and he's been nowhere the whole season. So
Yeah, he hasn't been playing much because we needed him for this game. But with that said, you think that our defense played better, or are the Eagles just that bad?
a mix of both. I think like it's kind of a gray area. Like we'll maybe get to it, I guess. I mean this is a good time to bring it up with oh yeah, I mean Ward is going to be out. Like that was his best game of the season.
Yeah.
Um obviously Taki's going to be out too. Like that was obviously his best game of the season. I don't we've played other bad teams and they haven't looked that good. So I don't know if it's game planning, if like because this is the second game after the bye week, so maybe that's like in
Yeah.
the bye week they're
Some
gelling
adjustments,
together. So it could be
mid-season
that.
adjustments. Yeah, that could be. I mean, they should. We'll talk about Jacksonville here in a little bit, but yeah. And then the other notes I had were that I think Kareem Hunt just plays better with Nick Chubb on the field, or not
Yeah.
on the field necessarily, but in the game. It really shows how much he compliments him because he just had a better game than he's had when Nick wasn't playing. But and then the last thing was that your boy the GOAT got blocked. Thoughts?
Yeah, it was pretty quiet on Twitter after that. But I mean, he hit a big field goal. Like I mean, he like made up for it. But yeah, I mean, there's not much you can do about a blocked kick. I bet you it would have went through if he got it off.
Yeah, the first one was 46, and then the second one that got blocked was 47, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, 46 in that stadium in that weather is impressive. Not easy either.
Yeah. I mean, we had a great wind game though. There was no wind on the goalposts at all. So
yeah, it's good. And I mean, here it's one of those things where like week 1 we talked about Jamie Gillen like getting tackled on like that fake punt and all that stuff. Like he's quietly had a great season. Like it's always a good thing.
And that was Andrew Sendejo though. Sendejo blew that block.
I mean, yeah, but also Sendejo's trash. Like he even like in like the best defensive game of the year, he found a way to like further their drive with that 15-yard penalty when he just hit the fucking wide receiver for no reason. Like he's a problem. Right. He needs to be gone. But we're everybody knows that. That should just be in our like in our intro. It's like, yeah, we hate
just
Andrew
put it
Sendejo.
in the intro, yeah.
But
include Gary Indiana and Andrew Sendejo. Just
move Andrew Sendejo to Gary Indiana and nuke the whole place.
Expansion team.
Just him by himself getting destroyed. But yeah, I just think like the special teams have been really good. I think with Parkey, we found a kicker that as long as he stays positive or like doesn't get in his own head, I think he's a good kicker. But we also had that with What's His Nuts from last year that I completely forgot now because it doesn't matter and he doesn't follow us back on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, I like the way the way Cody Parkey's been playing. Obviously, this season. I think that happens in Cleveland though. You get in your head and you just go on terrible streaks, and so far he hasn't. If he misses one, he comes back. So that's what you need.
And that's good. I mean, we're 7-3. I mean, it's something that I touched on the other podcast. Is like we're 7-3, but it like I think everybody knows, including the Browns, that it's not a 7-3 good team. We've just had a pretty good season or like a pretty good schedule. Like we're in a real world, we're probably a 500 team. But that's still better than we've been in the last few years. Like we're a 500 team that's winning games that they should win, and like you're beating it who's in front of you. So it's not a bad thing. Like I'm not complaining, like saying that we're out kicking the coverage or anything like that. But like we're beating who we're supposed to beat. We're just lucky that we have a good schedule this year. So maybe it's inflating a few things that might let us down next year or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to say you go back to like beating who you're supposed to beat. If we beat who we're supposed to beat the rest of the season, we go 11-5. Like that's insane.
Mm-hmm. Which I mean, we should. I mean, we could do the schedule game in a minute, like that, like how we always say we're not going to do the schedule game, but then we end up in the schedule game every single time, anyways. Like it's
Right.
that's almost the point of the podcast is to like how soon we get into the schedule game. Um, week 12 preview. Anything else on week 11?
No, I'm good. I think
Okay.
that covers.
Again, that'll be at the end. If you want to listen to the whole thing, I'm just going to tack it on to the end. So after our outro music, you'll hear me talking to Chris. If you want to listen to it, listen to it. It was a good time. It's all about football because he keeps it very serious. So if you want extra football coverage, there's that. It was fun. He's cool. Follow his stuff. I should have looked it up to see what the social media was, but I didn't. But it's just a game podcast. He does a really good job. I like the guy. He's super cool. When I brought up, he's a black guy, a black gentleman of African American descent, however you want to fucking say it. He's a really cool dude. And when we were talking about like the Mason Rudolph thing, I was like, look, as like a 30-year-old white dude, I expect if I use the N-word, I'm gonna get hit in the face. And he's like, you know what? That's a really good point. You probably shouldn't do that. And I was like, yeah, I think that's what Mason Rudolph did to get hit with the helmet. And he's like, yeah, you make a good point. So like it was just like it was cool. Week 12 preview, COVID scare. Again, Browns had to shut down practice for a little bit, but then they did offense and defense at different times. This is according to ESPN. 8 total players are held out as a precaution, but none of them, it says, are considered to be at high risk and should be back Thursday. But players held out were Dontrell Hilliard, Robert Jackson, Elijah Lee, Jacob Phillips, who hasn't played yet, Malcolm Smith, Taywan Taylor, Tavierre Thomas, and Mack Wilson, who actually had a great game on Sunday. They are considered, or I don't know, they say it a weird way. They're not considered high risk and expected to be back tomorrow. Myles Garrett is still out because he tested positive and it's 10 days. So whenever he hit it, he should be back next week.
He's actually showing symptoms, isn't he? Like, I think I saw he's showing symptoms, which is strange.
I mean, he tested positive and had symptoms.
Yeah.
So like if you test positive and you show symptoms, like the requirement's 10 days, I believe. So like it was reported on Wednesday, I believe, last week. So the 10 days would be this upcoming Sunday.
Yeah.
Or maybe Saturday.
It's just out of anybody that you think would be asymptomatic and just kick this disease's butt would be Myles Garrett, but
well, I mean, Von Miller said that Von Miller said it ravaged his body. And Von Miller is made out of stone too. And I mean, ever since that, I mean, we have to think about what it's actually doing to these because they're finely tuned machines. So when something like that gets thrown in there, Cam Newton has not been the same since COVID, so we don't know if that's
true. Yeah,
but we don't know if that's defense is catching up to Cam Newton, if there's nobody on the Patriots, or if it's COVID messed up Cam Newton, and he hasn't even looked the same. So who knows?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe it's the disease from Space Jam where they just steal his abilities, and there's some alien somewhere that's getting ready to form a football team.
It's a good movie. Yeah.
I mean, hey, I'm just saying that's a better sequel. Tom Brady in Space Jam football version, give me that over LeBron doing a complete reboot. I
disagree, but move on.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's a separate podcast. But no, with all those players, I was like, here's some really good content. And Jimmy's like, nah, I got a tea time.
I don't want to go anywhere with
that. But no, with all them, I mean, I put Luden as fun to watch. He's every time I turn on a Jacksonville game, he's just fun to watch. He's a real tall white kid who slings the ball. He actually had one of the funnest or most fun quarterback runs in that first game he had where he did the spin move to take it into almost overtime, but then they ended up losing. He's fun to watch. How big of a problem do you think this game's going to be missing all those people? Because I mean, Ward's out with that calf injury for multiple weeks. Miles is out. Taki's out. Do you think it's that big of a difference than what we're missing anyways, that it's going to make that big of a difference against Jacksonville? Or
I The linebacker depth is what scares me. We've been pretty shallow on secondary help, so I'm not. I mean, obviously, I love to have Ward on the field, but we've gotten by with much worse talent earlier in the season. The linebacker depth scares me a little bit with Taki being out because you said Mac Wilson's on the COVID list too, right? But he's just not confirmed to be out yet.
It says that he should be back Thursday, and that Jacob Phillips kid is supposed to be a stud linebacker, but he's been hurt.
He hasn't played at all, though, so I'm not really worried about it. Yeah. And then obviously the defensive line played pretty well last week without Miles, so I'm not too concerned about the defensive line. I think the linebackers is what scares me the most.
And I mean, and the biggest thing is like this is probably, I mean, Ward's going to be out next week too, is what they're saying pretty much. But like of all the teams for this to happen for, like it's the 1-9 Jaguars that I want it to be. But this is also one of those like they're riding high. This is like a Cleveland of old. Like we're gonna lose this game.
Yeah, this is a game that Freddie Kitchens would lose, that Hugh Jackson would lose. You know, games that they should win easily. This is a game that we typically do lose, but I don't think that'll be the case. We'll get to that though.
This is something maybe fun. I mean, because whatever, like we're gonna win this game. We should win this game. The only other thing I think Baker Mayfield needs to, he doesn't need to show out, but I feel like this is like a big Baker win game. Like he's gonna come out and sling it a little bit against a bad team in decent weather. Like I think he'll look good. But I mean, we're also unstoppable when Chubb and Hunt are moving, even if it's just for one quarter, like we saw on Sunday. Yeah. Like if they have a fourth quarter, like the fourth quarter, there's nothing stopping them.
Right. Yeah. I'm fully expecting a big game from Baker. I mean, we've had a four game home stretch where it's just been shitty weather back-to-back weeks, where the passing game couldn't really get going. So I would not be surprised to see a big game from Baker, and I hope to see it. I think it'd be exciting.
And I mean, he threw at 50%, but I mean, like I would say half of that 50%, you can blame on the weather. He had the fumble, but that was just like a great hit, great setup. Like, I mean, that's going to happen.
That happens.
But he hasn't thrown bad balls. He's made the play that he needs to when he needs to lately. So I feel like in good weather against a bad team, he might actually, like, they just might take the top off and let him throw it around so people get off his ass a little bit.
Right.
But to go back to kind of like the Hugh Jackson would have lost this game, Freddie Kitchens would have lost this game. Are we ready to like completely be in on Kevin Stefanski on this 7-3 team with the injuries in COVID in his first season? So I'm asking the question because like if next year you have like the sophomore slump with this team with him, like are we still behind him like this one season where we're 7-3, probably going to end up at least 10-6, like the best season in forever, maybe make the playoffs? Is he the coach forever just off of the season, or is it like he still needs to prove it for a couple more years?
That's a good question, because I was thinking about this earlier. I'm like, is it are we good? Is it Kevin Stefanski, or is it just an easy schedule? And are we mediocre? Which we've talked about. Like we probably are a 500 team. We just have to be 7-3, looking at 10-6, 11-5, depending on how the rest of the season unfolds. But I do kind of think we are a 500 team. I am extremely happy with the progress the team has made, though, given the offseason they've had without the extra practices they're entitled to with a first-time head coach, stuff like that. And then just how Stefanski's handled himself with the adversity. I think it's been phenomenal compared to other coaches in the past.
They look, and again, not to go back to the other podcast again, but like he asked like what has been the problem the whole time. I don't know if it's just like that Haslams have decided to stay out of football this time. Like was that the thing where like when Andrew Berry came over and when Stefanski came over, they're like, yeah, we'll take the job, but I do not want to see you in this building during the season. Mm-hmm. Like it seems like a well-run football team. Like they don't do it was fun having like the team doing like the office videos and all that other stuff. Like, I guess like you don't want to say like because of COVID, like they actually get to focus on football more, because I'm not like one of those crazy like old guys who's like, you need to focus on football. But like you have to almost seem more focused, but like you also, it seems like have like real adults as coaches for the first time, and they're not like big personalities. They're not like, oh shucks, I'm the big like. It's just like this is a coach that deserves the spot. This is a GM that deserves the spot. So let's run it. Let's go. And everybody kind of respects everybody. Like it feels
Yeah.
more cohesive and like a real football team for the first time in forever.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really agree though with the off-season stuff. I don't think that the media obligations they have or the office videos, Baker doing commercials has anything to do with how the actual season goes. Yeah, that's just me, but
I also
do
don't.
think
I personally don't think so either. Like that's why I don't want to go down that lane. But like you all, I mean, Baker filmed more commercials than he did ever. But like the team videos, like you're like
yeah, I know what
they
you're talking
haven't
about.
been
Yeah.
like taking time to like do that because you're not allowed to because you're not allowed in the office to like be around and
Right.
fuck around. Like you're there to do football, then you go
Yeah.
home and you're doing stuff. Like it's almost like it's like
Yeah.
a job instead of like, oh, like you know what I mean? Like it's you don't want to play into
Yeah.
that, but it's almost like it makes sense where they're like, we're here to play football and then go home and we can do whatever we
A
want.
little bit more focused. Yeah, I guess I can see that. Yeah. There's no more shuffleboard in the break room between the stuff like that. Yeah. Okay.
And it's not a bad thing. Like obviously you got to be there all the time, and you're millionaires playing a game. Like your job's not a real job anyways. But like you go and like you go there to work, then you go home, and like everybody's got their own Instagram. Like the guys are like live streaming them playing video games and shit. Like I don't care about that. Like that's cool. That's like make your money doing the side hustle, do all that cool stuff. Like have your side businesses and like your commercials. But like when they're like, hey, let's stay after for an hour and make an office video at the football field, it's like, all right, cool, whatever. But that's enough on that, I guess. I didn't mean to go into like old man yelling at clouds about online content. But
is Boozer snoring by you?
He's like losing his shit. I didn't know if you could like hear it or not. But
I thought I heard something.
He's like he's been sitting here like he was like asleep, and then every once in a while he'll like start snoring and like dreaming and then like wake himself up with like random noises. It's ridiculous. All right. Let's do score predictions. Did you want to go first or you want me to go first? Because I'm looking at their schedule now.
I can go first.
Did you know they beat the Colts? That was the win that they had at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, that was like their only win, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Also, just real quick, I want to like the Browns are getting fucked in these like because like we beat the Colts, and yes, the Colts have beat better teams than us. Like they beat the Packers. I don't think we beat the Packers in that game, but like the Colts are seen as like contenders now, where like the Browns are still like they have them in like the muddled middle. Like it's like we're better than half of those teams that we're in there with. Like it like show a little bit of respect. Like I don't think we're too high ranked. Or like we're not highly ranked enough, but they have us at like 14 or 15, which is better than what we usually are. But I would say we're like 12 or 13. Like we're better than a couple of those teams they have us ranked behind.
Yeah, I think it's just the strength of schedule. Not that it's a college like attitude in those rankings, but maybe it is. I mean, they're not official rankings, so I guess it could be.
We're in the playoffs if the season ends today, so I guess that's all that matters.
Yeah, true. I mean, like I said earlier, we're looking at 10-6, 11-5. There's no reason why we shouldn't finish at least 10-6. That's if we go 500 the rest of the year. Like,
yeah,
that's a disappointment at this point. I mean, I'm looking at 11-5 realistically. So
you were at 11-5 before the season started, and
I know, which was crazy. Like I couldn't believe it when I actually added up the totals. I thought that was insane, but I mean, that's not terrible. I'll take it.
Yeah, that's where I was on Sunday, since I guessed the score exactly until that garbage time touchdown, pretty much.
Oh, I didn't even look at it. I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, I guessed 20-10, and it was 22-10 until that garbage time touchdown that they had.
Nice. What was the spread? You said you had that earlier?
6.5.
6.5. Okay.
It was 7.5 on ESPN, and I think with the news today, it went down a point.
Yeah. I'm going to go 38-31 Browns.
Jesus. Well, since I've done a whole bunch of research here, I'm not going to be all crazy with this. I'm thinking Because I mean, on like they're the highest that they have scored, the Jacksonville Jaguars was 30 points. That's the highest they scored. Like they almost beat the Titans too. Like they were like 2 games away from a real run. That's wild.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 27-17. I forgot to write down your score. What was it again?
38-31.
I forgot I was in charge of doing that.
Oh, sorry. I usually do that. I don't have it up.
No, it was. I've been doing it. I just forgot because I was reading. We're winning this game, right? Like we both have this as a win.
Yeah. This would be a pretty disappointing loss.
Yeah, this would completely. I mean, it's not really in. Like Baltimore's going to end up losing on Sunday, so like we'll still be in second and all that stuff. Like if we both lose, so I mean, and then this is like we have Jacksonville, then Tennessee and Baltimore, which is going to be tough, and then the Giants, which might be a sneaky loss later on there, but I still don't think so. Then the Jets, like at that point, they're giving away the game. Like we might sit Baker and everybody for that game if we're smart, and then Pittsburgh to end the season. So I don't know. We got like how they say it's like a compliment sandwich where you're like supposed to say something nice, then give like the bad news, and then say something nice at the end. That's kind of what our season is so far right now. Is like we've got like 2 bad games, 2 good games, 2 bad games, and then a good game again. So
yeah.
I don't know. Any other news from you, James?
No. Oh, you gonna watch the Tyson fight this weekend?
No.
I'm gonna try. I'll see what time it starts. But
I mean, I might stream it. I mean, I'm definitely not paying for it. Like,
no, God, no.
Like, did you ever meet my buddy James, like the tall, bald-headed guy I sold cards with? That might have been after you guys moved, but like, he texted me about it. He's like, bro, this Tyson fight, Tyson's gonna tear him up, and he's like, I think he's close. He's like 10 years older than we are, so he might be like 40, 42. I forget how old he is. Maybe 45. I don't remember. But like he grew up in Tyson's heyday, so I think he's just like holding on to that. We're like, Tyson's the guy from The Hangover to me, really. I mean, like, Mike Tyson was a badass, but like he hasn't boxed in 20 years.
Yeah. My parents, I remember watching the Tyson Holyfield fight, the one where he bit his ear. We watched that at my house. I remember that.
Yeah, I mean,
like 6 or 7 or something, but
yeah, you have like basic memories of it, but it's like I don't know. I don't care about Mike Tyson. Like, I don't want to watch 50-year-old dudes beating the shit out of each other. Like, best case scenario, like somebody's gonna die.
Yeah.
It was like watching Dada 5000 or Dada 3000 against
Slice. Worst fight ever. That was terrible.
It seemed like a great idea going into it, and then like once it came into it, you're like, oh, he had a heart attack because they're both terrible.
Yeah. R.I.P. Kimbo.
Yeah, R.I.P. Kimbo. He's not the one who had a heart attack in the fight.
Hey, wait, Dada he actually had a heart attack during that fight? I don't remember that.
Yeah, he like had one after the fight or something like that.
Oh wow, I don't know. I'm gonna look that up after this.
Yeah, it was like a weird thing. But anything else that you want to touch to?
No, I think I'm good.
Yeah, here it is. Hold on. Just real quick. From BleacherReport.com, Dafir Harris, better known as MMA fighter Dada 5000, was clinically dead at some point during his February fight with Kimbo Slice at Bellator 149. But like,
having suffered results of cardiac arrest, severe dehydration, and kidney failure during a contest with Slice. That's insane. I had no idea. I remember he looked terrible in that fight, like he was fighting in slow motion, like he was dying, but I didn't think he was actually dying.
Both of them looked bad. Like they both looked terrible.
Yeah. Jesus.
yeah, what wild times. But all right, cool. So stick around to the end of this podcast. You're going to hear the end music, and then I'm going to attach the file of that other podcast if you want to listen to that. Follow Chris's podcast if you want to, but make sure that you rate, review, subscribe on ours. At Browns Out of Town on the social medias. Go to whoisrayroberts.com. I don't have anything real to promote. There's the Comedy and Mushroom Cult podcast thing that's really fun. It's silly. It's just a fun, silly time. So if you want to see how my comedic brain works when it's not even like focused on anything at all, if you think this is bad, don't go to that one.
Not on your website yet? Are you still working on that?
It's on we're working on the logo for it. Like we're like 1 or 2 days behind. It took over the Classy Dinner stream. So I just put it right on that. So if anybody clicks the Classy Dinner link in my podcast, it'll go to that. If you were subscribed to Classy Dinner, it'll go to that too. All the Classy Dinner podcast episodes are still on there though. I have those denoted with CD on there. So if I ever do one of those, I can just throw it right on that same stream and not lose any of it. So it's all there. We're just taking advantage of that one just because it's on there. But Beers Bourbon Barbecue on the Instagram. Anything else?
No, I'm good. I think that's it.
Happy Thanksgiving and go Browns.
Go Browns.
Football!